OceanGate, you might have heard this story going around. I want to take a couple of minutes here to help you understand exactly what's going on, how they're looking for this thing, and why this was a self-fulfilling prophecy. So OceanGate, if you don't know, let me just get rid of this here so you can see the pictures properly. So they go out to the Titanic wreck site, which comes out of Canada. So they leave Canada, Newfoundland there, as you can see on the little chart that I've got, and then they head out and go to that location. So it's a big search area where they are because there's lots of currents and lots of movement under the water there. So they don't really know. So they know where it went down, of course, where it submerged, but they don't really know where it's gone and how long it's been gone for. What they do know is they lost communications, but there was a series of fail-safes that were in place in the event that the comms went away. So one of the fail-safes that they had on this little submersible was it would report its position, its depth, and its speed every couple of seconds, and it would report back to the surface as well. But all the comms have actually gone away, so no communication. And that had been something that they'd trained for, but the communication piece had gone away for more time, like the time had elapsed. Okay, we haven't heard from a little while. Now we have to action our plan. We've done everything that we can to solve this problem and to move forward. So when you look at what's actually happening, so I'm going to go through with how they actually search for it and what's happened. So the Canadian Air Force has been in there with their P3 Orion. So this is a picture of the P3 on the screen. This is literally 1950s and 1960s technology. So on the bottom of the aircraft here, just where my mouse is, just where the rear part of the wings are, you can see there's like a rectangle there, and there's a series of holes underneath the fuselage there. What that is where they drop sonar buoys. So this is an anti-submarine aircraft. So this is an aircraft that we would use in conjunction with helicopters, ships, and other assets to look for a submarine. And you'll notice in the back of the tail there's this big, long, pointy probe thing in the back of the tail. That's called a MAD, and MAD stands for Magnetic Anomaly Detector. So essentially what we do is we drop the sonar buoys in the water. The sonar buoys make noise. This is what it looks like in the water. So the P3 flies along and drops the sonar buoys in the water like that. And this is what a sonar buoy actually looks like. So this fella's loading the sonar buoys into a Seahawk. So it can be done from a helicopter or from a special fixed-wing aircraft. In the US Navy, we don't use P3 Orions anymore. I think they're still in service, I can't remember, but they switched that to a 737 version of the same thing. So all the latest gear, updated technology, and I'm sure that those aircraft are on station now as well because they can get there really quickly. So we drop the sonar buoys in the water, and in the tail of the airplane there, you've got the magnetic anomaly detector. Essentially, the sonar buoy is pinging in the water, like you would think of, a submarine movie, like ping, and then it's looking for the sound to reflect back off, and the MAD in the tail of the plane is picking up all of the sounds, and it's really sophisticated sensors. Essentially what we're doing is looking for a metal tube in the water. So there's a couple of design problems that will come up that you will see here, while that's making life really difficult for these people searching for them. So they've actually found some noises. So I'm going to play that for you. So you'll need to put your headphones into your ears to hear it because it's a bit faint, but this is the noises that they found. So you can hear the sonar buoy ping, and then you'll hear the tapping. So have a listen again. So it's quite difficult to hear, and when you're trying to do this stuff in real time, I've never had to listen to a headset in an airplane or a helicopter because I'm not an airborne crew, but listening on a warship is hard, right? I always remember just crushing my headphones against my ears trying to hear what's actually going on under the water, and you can hear all sorts of things. There's all sorts of ambient noise there, and you're looking at the sets to see what's going on. And if you've ever been in a doctor's surgery and you've looked at an ultrasound looks a lot like what sonar looks like, because ultrasound is using the liquid in your body so you can see like a baby or an injury or something like that inside of you. And so looking at a set like that looks like ultrasound. And I can remember, you would sit at a sonar and you'd have your hands over your ears, and you'd close your eyes and you'd be listening, and then you look up at the console while you're listening to the noises to try and find whatever it is that you're looking for. In this case, this little rover that they've actually designed, there's some really, really serious design flaws that go with it. And the way that I've described this is, this was always going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when I heard that this thing had gone missing in the last couple of days, it was like, oh, what is this, OceanGate? I thought it was like a piss take of Watergate or something like that, but that's actually what they called it. And so when I looked at this thing, I thought, all right, let's look at some pictures of it. And then I see this is what it looks like. So it's like a minivan. It has just a handful of people that can sit inside of it. So when you look at the actual image here, you see on the front left-hand side there, they've got propulsion that's pointing fore and aft, and then on the upper side of it there, kind of midships on the little machine there, it's got up and down. So it's forward and aft, up and down. That's how it's controlling itself in the water. But what you can't see on the outside of this thing is, I can't see any oxygen tanks. So I can't see any way, when you go under the water. So think about just being in a confined space. Imagine if you were inside your car, and your car is a watertight device and a watertight thing. If you were inside your car and the windows are up and the doors are closed, and you turn the heater on and you turn the recycle on so it's not from the outside, pretty quickly the carbon monoxide from your breath inside of there would fill inside of that, and you'd start to feel a little bit woozy. You feel really shit at first. You're like, oh man, I don't feel so well. And then after a while, you kind of get used to it. Now, if you had 4 or 5 people sitting in that same vehicle as you, imagine that. There was 3 people in the back seat, 2 people in the front seat, and you're all breathing there, and you're sitting there for, say, 4 hours in the vehicle. All of a sudden, you start to feel a little bit kind of shit, right? So the people that designed this, there's a couple of really serious, massive, serious design faults with this thing. And the first one is, the guy is so arrogant. He's from the aerospace industry. I can't even remember his name. It's not even worth saying his name, because he's the cause of all of this. He's the cause of these deaths, which were completely and totally avoidable. It kind of pisses me off when I look at it, because to an untrained eye like myself, what do I know about submarines? I know how to find a submarine and prosecute a submarine with a torpedo, but that's about it. But when I look at this, what I know about being in the Navy and being an anti-submarine operator, I can see the design flaws in this straight away. Like, the first one is the actual device itself is a carbon fiber tube. So it's just a carbon fiber cylinder, the middle of it. And then on the front of it, they have a titanium ring, and you can see that sits over the top of it, with another piece of carbon fiber and a window on the front of it where you're looking out. So when you look at the device, the only way to get in and out, to egress and ingress into this actual submersible, is by opening the hatch on the front of this submarine. And you can see this titanium ring, this thing that goes on the front of it there where the glass is, so people can see what they're looking at as they're actually under the water. So they're going down to look at the Titanic, so they need to be able to see it, of course. So they're looking out the front window there. But you'll notice there's 17 bolts there. So the only way to get in and out of this rover is to have somebody on the outside bolt you in and bolt you out. So the thing is on a hinge where it opens up and it closes, and then they bolt the thing closed. So there's no way for the people on the inside of this submersible to get out of it. That you can get in it, and then somebody closes the hatch, and then they bolt the hatch down like that. So here's unmute yourself here and let me know if you remember Apollo number 1. Remember Apollo 1 that blew up on the launch pad? Blew up on the launch pad. It caught fire on the launch pad. So 3 astronauts went on the inside of the module. So essentially, the module is the same sort of thing. It's a little triangular shaped spacecraft that sits on top of an ICBM, for heaven's sake. The astronauts get on the inside of it, and they're practicing all of their drills. But the problem that they had in Apollo 1 is they're pumping the thing full of oxygen to make sure all of the systems are working. And then there was a short circuit on the inside of it. There was a small spark, which ignited all the oxygen on the inside, and then kaboom! And all 3 of those guys died in, literally like less than 20 seconds. First of all, from the oxygen and the explosion that would suck all the air out of your body, and then they've actually perished in the fire that have happened. So one of the fundamental design faults that I see here is there's no way for somebody to get out of this thing. And look, you couldn't get out of it anyway because you'd be crushed by the pressure at that depth. But, if there was an opportunity for you to egress from the thing at lower depths, something, 50 to 20 meters or something like that, then you want to be able to escape. There's no escape hatchel. This is literally your death capsule when you go inside of it. Very, very serious in that respect. And then when we start talking about oxygen and air and mixed gases and everything like that, there's nothing that you can see externally from the side view there or the front view there that shows me that there's additional oxygen or ways to actually get rid of those gases. And the thing that really kind of pissed me off about this OceanGate thing and the arrogance of this dude, he goes, I don't want to employ anybody in my company that is a submariner that's a 50 or a 60-year-old guy. What I want to do is I want to employ young people so we can innovate to figure out actually how to do this. And I go, okay, cool. That's a really good idea in theory, but in practice, you need people that have worked on submarines to understand how to actually do things. Because when a submarine goes to sea after it's been in port or it's launching for the first time, it goes to sea and it doesn't go under the water. Then it goes under the water by a meter, then by 2 meters, 5 meters, 10 meters, 20 meters, 100 meters. Then there's a series of things that it actually does and things that actually happen as a result of it. It is just unbelievable what's going on with this. And then when you look really closely, so he's employed no people that have worked in the submarine industry. It's a collaboration that he's had with a whole bunch of younger people to design this, to come up with fresh ideas and to do different things. But he's also, I think it was some partnership with NASA or something like that. There's bits and pieces there that I saw in the periphery. I didn't look too deeply into it because it pissed me off because of what I was seeing. And then as I'm looking, this is how they control the thing. They're controlling it with a PlayStation controller. So now it begs a series of questions. As you see, this guy's the founder and the inventor of the thing. You can see it's just a carbon fiber tube. You're just sitting on the floor on the inside of this, right? So imagine 5 people sitting in there and you're in there for, 10 hours, 20 hours. How do you go to the bathroom, man? What happens like when I go down at depth, I'm getting, my body, the pressure is acting against my body as well, pushing all the gases out of my body. So what happens if I have to fart in there? What happens if I have to burp in there? There's all sorts of really bad things going on. How do I extract the CO2 from my exhaling of my breath? And how do you make sure that the oxygen is at the right level so people are not passing it? So many questions being asked in there, but when you look at the picture, it's just a solid tube in there. I mean, you can see a camera behind him and you can see like a little thing behind him, but you can't see very much. And the guy's pointing at a PlayStation video game controller. So that's how you control the little rover. Okay, cool, I get it. That's how you control something, and that's fine. You're going to control it somehow. But he's showing, when I look closely at it, can you see any cables there, Ed? Because I sure can't. So are you using a Bluetooth controller to control a rover that goes down to 4,000 meters and you've got 5 other people's lives in your hand? What happens if the Bluetooth didn't work for some reason? Is there a spare controller in there? Do you have a cable that you can connect to the controller to charge the controller and then to be able to do that? Like, where is your redundancy? And all of your innovation and all of the young people and all of your fresh ideas, they're all great and everything like that. But it just shows me that all of this was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. What did you think was actually going to happen? And when I think of worst case scenarios, and I've played worst case scenarios a lot in my mind. When I first joined the military, you play that all the time. These are the things.